In the halls of the Zarathi Dominion's high conclave, myths were used for laughter, not learning. The archivists would occasionally stumble across strange fragments of forgotten data, half-erased star logs, archaic codices, and cultural epics that spoke of a people called humans. To the Zarathi, it was absurd. These humans were said to have been bold wanderers, reaching beyond their system long before the Dominion rose to power. Their stories claimed unmatched adaptability, ferocity in war, and a peculiar ability to reshape themselves to any world they touched. But the conclave scholars sneered. Myths for primitives, one counselor had said during a recent session, his scaled mandibles clicking with amusement. Stories meant to inspire frightened colonies. Humans, bah, no species could fight entropy with such arrogance. If they existed, they would be here still. The silence proves the lie. Explorers carried the same contempt. Cadets in the military academies mocked each other with the word human as an insult. Clumsy, fragile, weak. The galaxy had moved on. Humanity, if it had ever existed, was nothing more than a bedtime ghost story. The myth persisted, yes, but only as a punchline. A ghost signal in the dark. Then the silence fractured. Deep in the periphera, beyond the mapped lanes of commerce and war, a listening post of the Terralith Syndicate intercepted something peculiar. A pulse. Not a natural stellar flare, not a pirate's encrypted chatter. Something older, colder. The signal rode a frequency long abandoned by modern empires. Within its carrier waves was a code of startling elegance. Data packets cascaded across screens, locked with encryption that broke through Terralith firewalls like knives through silk. The watchers froze. When they traced the signal's path, they found emptiness. No trade lanes, no habitable stars, no colonies. Just the drifting void and coordinates no empire had ever claimed. Its noise, one officer declared, forcing laughter into his voice. An echo, the universe coughing. Yet when archivists matched the signature, jaws tightened. Buried deep in forbidden vaults, the pattern aligned perfectly with entries once marked as Terran. The myth. The news spread like wildfire. Some dismissed it instantly, others debated it with mock scorn. But in the dim war rooms of the Syndicate, unease began to stir. The first glimpse. Weeks later, the Oblivion Array, the galaxy's greatest telescope cluster, detected movement at the coordinates. At first, the scans returned nothing. Then shadows began to form. Massive constructs drifted through the void, cloaked in distortions that bent light itself. The AI cores tracking them sputtered, rejecting data as corrupt. The software simply labeled the readings, non-existent. But they were not non-existent. Silhouettes emerged, hulls vast enough to eclipse moons, dark plating woven with streaks of silver, every contour humming with restrained energy. They moved without signal beacons, without identification codes, without the arrogant announcements of other fleets. Silent, purposeful. And their vector was inward, toward the galaxy's beating heart. When the first image leaked, the reaction was not laughter. It was silence. Not a single conclave speaker mocked. Not a single academy cadet smirked. Every alien who looked upon those impossible shapes felt the same tightening in their chest. One word whispered across encrypted channels in private rooms, behind trembling mandibles and sealed lips: humans. When reality crushed denial, the conclave gathered in emergency session. The air was thick, the chambers filled with nervous pheromones and the metallic scent of fear. "They do not transmit," one general hissed. "No IFF codes, no alliance claims. What are they?" "Ghosts," someone muttered. Another archivist rose, claws trembling as he accessed forbidden data slates. The words struck the chamber like blows. These patterns, these vessels, match human design doctrine. Proportions, engine signatures, hull layering, they should not exist, yet they do. The chamber fell utterly silent. It was not only the ship's existence that chilled the galaxy. It was their scale. Modern fleets numbered thousands of cruisers, hundreds of capital ships. These non-existent vessels were few, but each one radiated a presence greater than entire navies. The Korathi League, arrogant warlords who once mocked the myths, dispatched a probing flotilla. Their message was simple: intimidation. Their fleet never returned. Only a fragment of data survived, transmitted by a dying probe. A Korathi dreadnought torn in half by a single kinetic strike, its hull folding like paper. The human ship had not fired beams, had not launched swarms, had not declaimed superiority. It had simply acted. The council chambers across the galaxy shook with a new, unspoken reality. Humanity had returned. The galaxy falls silent. When the vessels entered settled space, no challenge rose against them. Trade routes diverted, defense platforms shut down, and systems pretended blindness rather than risk notice. The humans made no speeches, no threats. They simply moved, inexorable and calm, like titans walking among insects. And the strangest part, they did not conquer. On the edge of the Orion expanse, an entire sector held its breath as the human fleet entered orbit around a dead world. Scanners watched in awe as they began to rebuild it, shaping atmospheres, reigniting long-dead cores, resurrecting a wasteland into a jewel. It was not war they brought, but power. Power so complete, so absolute, that no other species could look upon it without trembling. Every government, every warlord, every syndicate understood the truth. If humans willed it, they could erase empires. But they did not speak. They simply were. And that was worse. For in the silence, every alien imagination filled the void with fear. Why had humans returned? Why now? What purpose stirred behind those unreadable, myth-made eyes? The whispers spread. The myths are real. The non-existent vessels sail. And the galaxy has fallen silent. Aftermath, the whisper of fear. In academies, the old jokes about humans vanished. No cadet dared use the word in mockery again. In war councils, species who once laughed at myths now banned the very mention of humans, as if silence might protect them. But silence offered no shield. For in the shadow of the human fleet, even the greatest empires felt small. Their weapons, their doctrines, their centuries of conquest, all rendered obsolete by a species that had been dismissed as a story. And somewhere in the vast, watching dark, humanity listened. They had no need to announce themselves. Their ships, their silence, their presence was declaration enough. The galaxy would never mock again. And in every Senate chamber, every throne room, every hidden archive, the same chilling truth pulsed like a heartbeat. The Galactic Council had convened in the Hall of Concord, a chamber larger than the orbital docks of most star nations. Delegates shimmered in robes of living silk, armored carapaces, and glittering crystalline forms. Their voices wove together in a chorus of superiority, echoing off walls etched with the history of their species. At the center, a debate raged, not over war, not over trade, not even over disputed sectors, but over myths. Humans, one delegate scoffed, his mandibles clicking in derision. The phantom marauders of pre-Union folklore, childish tales of a species that walked among stars before our great civilizations took flight. Laughable. The chamber erupted with mocking laughter. Another delegate, a scholar of long memory, raised his voice with strained patience. Yet the archives are consistent. Records from dozens of ancient cultures describe their sudden appearances, their so-called vessels of iron flame. Entire wars were said to have turned at their intervention, entire empires humbled. Fabrications, came the reply, stories to frighten fledgling civilizations into obedience. It was decided, again, as it had countless times before, that humans did not exist. The very thought of them was dismissed as a superstition, no more credible than ghost fires or planet spirits. And so, with smug certainty, the Council laughed away the myth of humanity. They never imagined how soon the laughter would die. Echoes in the void. The first sign arrived not as a fleet, but as a whisper. In the remote star-swept reaches of the Perseus Arm, a listening station maintained by the Voric Empire detected a transmission. It was faint, distorted, and buried beneath radiation storms. But the carrier frequency, it matched nothing in the Union's registry. When decoded, fragments emerged, harsh, guttural syllables strung together with iron precision. No known tongue, yet oddly familiar. The archivists traced the sound through layers of forgotten history until one dared to speak the word aloud.